the burden of the parent's sacrifice.
What is this about?
Nothing. Everything. I don't know.
There's just no way to repay it. At the heart of all this was empathy. How to get there became simply understanding the pressures on her.
I don't want to run the shop. I know that was your dream, but it's not mine.
The shop was never the dream. You were the dream.
That's the balance between duty and self-actualization. Do I honor them by pursuing the life they want for me, or do I honor them by pursuing the life I want for me?
I love you, Wade.
I wish you could come to some of our story sessions.
Wait!
Okay.
Why does anyone get to tell you what you can do in your life?
This idea of honoring the parents slowly became a real entity in the film.
This is a love story between people from two different worlds coming together, but instead of it being a tragedy, it's a story of bridge building.
Damn you, Pixar. Hello and welcome to Cinema Therapy. I'm Alan Seawright, a professional filmmaker who needs therapy. This is my co-host,
Jonathan Decker, licensed therapist who loves movies, and joining us today,
the man, the myth, the legend, the director of Elemental, The Good Dinosaur, the voice of 2/3 of your favorite weird little side characters in Pixar movies, Peter Sohn. Thank you so much for joining us and coming to talk about Elemental, your wonderful film.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I am super excited. I feel very lucky to be here with you guys.
I wanted to tell you very briefly the story of how we first saw Elemental. We had a movie theater locally. We invited our fans to join us for a screening, and we filled up the theater. Opening weekend, we filled up the theater for Elemental, and everybody, including us, were blown away, thought it was way better than we expected, and everyone thought, first of all, Pixar should do more romantic comedies.
Yep.
Second of all, there's such a beautiful story. This is an immigrant's tale, which none of us knew going in. And we and our fans, we laughed together, we cried together, the whole theater reacted and responded. So I know we were very pleased to see that your film grew legs because of word of mouth.
Yeah, thank you. The concepts and the ideas in the film, when that started sort of taking a hold of people, it started filling a lot of the folks here back up with, the love of why we do this, to make that connection with people and audiences.
Yeah. Speaking of, let's share some moments.
This is too expensive, and that is not made in Fireland.
Take breath, make connection. Take breath, make connection. Take breath, make connection. Take breath, make connection! Sorry about that. Sorry.
She almost went full purple. I've never seen anyone go full purple.
Sorry, everyone.
Oh, please forgive my daughter. She burned bright, but sometimes too bright, eh? Nice hat, by the way. Let me make you a new batch. On the house.
Sorry, Ashfa. I don't know why that one got away from me.
Oh, you are tense because of Big Red Dot sale tomorrow.
So, having worked in customer service before, I definitely was feeling Ember in a lot of this.
I know. Just do what we practice. You are so good at everything else.
You're right. I'll get it. I just want you to rest. Done.
So cool. I love the realization of the fire neighborhood and
Just tired.
Let me help.
everything's metal and glass, nothing's wood.
Yeah, I haven't seen this in a while, and it fills the heart up. The personal part of this was this version of the film and the idea that Bernie, the father, is running a store came directly from my personal life. But originally, the fire store was a garbage incineration plant. They would just take garbage and eat it and burn it into ash. And there was a bigger family. And right around there, my father passed away in making this. That version where they were like a garbage incineration company got very dark. The city hated fire people. They were just trying to water them out, and put them out. And I remember showing versions of that film here at Pixar, and it did not go well. People were like, oh, it's so negative and it's so sort of angry. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is exactly what, it's reality. And I didn't know how I was processing my father's passing. And the executive producer on the film, Pete Docter, who, is the creative chief at Pixar, knew what I was going through. He was just like, Peter, was this the film that you always wanted to make? This sort of angry version? And I was like, no, I just wanted to do this love story between these two characters and a father and a daughter. And then he reminded me of a line.
Ember, the shop was never the dream. You were the dream. You were always the dream.
The shop was never the dream, that you were the dream. I cried, and it reminded me of, it is just this relationship of a father and a daughter and passing on something that was his dream, essentially.
Yeah. Right.
Not to make it too dark, but my mom would pass away after this. And so this idea of honoring the parents slowly became a real entity in the film, which I didn't see until much later as we were making it, And Pete was always there. He was this really amazing guiding light in terms of knowing where I was at, And at the end, he was just like, you should put a photo of your parents in the credits, because he knew that this was all boiling to this sort of honoring that the film was becoming.
This episode is brought to you by Cinema Therapy Studios. If you're only watching us on YouTube, you're missing out. We've taken Patreon to the next level, turning ours into an actual film studio. So, of course, you get extended commercial-free director's cuts of our channel episodes, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, folks. Our patrons are also studio executives. You get to actively decide and participate in the pre-production, production, and post-production of Alan's films, like this year's dystopian rom-com, Cyrano.
Is there anything else I can do? You could be blonde.
You also get therapy and filmmaking deep dives, where Alan and I offer insight and helpful advice from our professional worlds. What's more, sketch comedy bits.
Keep rocking that dead ball!
Looks behind the scenes of cinema therapy, channel outtakes and fails.
You choose who you choose.
Oh, damn it!
Who do you choose?
The choice is yours.
And even recently, a fully produced music video.
Doubt your dream will ever come true. Blame the world, but never blame you.
Right now, you can get 20% off an annual subscription to our Cinema Therapy Studios Patreon. That's over 2 months free. Friends, don't miss out on the full cinema therapy experience. Support our efforts and Alan's filmmaking dreams, and get all of that delicious goodness for 20% off right now.
Dad.
This was so difficult, you guys. Even that gag, because it's the first time we were doing characters that were effects. Most of the time it's either, skin or plastic toys or metal cars, but to have characters that were translucent and refracting,
boiling,
reflecting was insane.
Yeah. Because here he's sweating and he's boiling.
Right. And I should show you early tests, because he was clear. Like, real water isn't blue; it's all a reflection of light. But he was impossible.
You couldn't see him, yeah.
Yeah.
He was just a weird distortion in the air, yeah.
He was a nightmare, you guys. All of these gags, all of these small jokes was so crazy to count, because it's the film with the most effects in any Pixar film, because essentially every shot is an effect.
Sure. No, this is like, James Cameron's Avatar level of everything is effects all the time. It's crazy.
But in a small store versus a giant planet.
If you don't mind. See? It's really tasty if you water it down a little.
Water us down? Water us down? Where's camera? We will never be watered down by you. Get up!
All right, sir, you gotta go.
Here we see that Ember comes by her hot temper, honestly.
Yeah. That temper was something that was very sensitive to not only play the behavior of, but also understand where it was coming from and why, at the heart of all this, it was about empathy and not being able to access that empathy because of either upbringing or certain kind of prejudices. And growing up in New York, as I did, I remember these feelings that when you feel like you don't belong, or when someone others you out and go back to where you came from, there is this sort of shame mixed with anger, mixed with all this stuff that begins to grow in you. And some of it can turn into what you might call like street smarts or street toughness, to sort of find your way through a system. And that was always something that the crew and I and the writers always sort of to just immediately find with a character made of fire. Like, why would she be fired? The idea of anger, the idea of passion, the idea of creativity and love, all of these different symbols of what fire is something that we started really exploiting.
Well, and water can be soothing, water can be cleansing, water can be destructive, right? Inadvertently destructive. And so when I saw the trailer for Elemental, I personally feel like it leaned too hard into the element side of things to where it just kind of felt like, oh, this is a gimmick, but it's Pixar, so I'm sure.
What if Elements had feelings?
Right. And then I actually watching the film, and I think this is why the word of mouth was so strong on it. It's so wise and insightful in what it's using the elements symbolically for when it comes to relationships, when it comes to personality types, when it comes to this whole story of cross culture. This is the Capulets and the Montagues. This is West Side Story. This is a love story between people from two different worlds coming together. But instead of it being a tragedy, it's a story of bridge building, which is also very important in today's world and very necessary. I don't know why I was surprised. This is a stupid thing to be surprised by.
You were surprised that Pixar made a good film?
I was surprised
really
that
nailed the tone?
Surprise, motherfucker.
And that it really had something to say, but it did. It's so significant and so fun.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. It really affects me to hear you talk about how you were connecting to those elements, because a lot of those aspects came from our crew and stories that they were sharing about their own personal lives. So many on our show had not only dealt with like first generation, second generation issues, but just like holes in their lives when they were falling in love. And they would talk about it in ways that sort of magnetically moved to either one element or the other. And it really began to form a deeper understanding of what it means to be emotionally open for Wade, what it means to be, have layers of yourself that are burning but are closing you off, and what it means to be vulnerable when Ember's fire turns into a little candlelight flame. Those choices when you do feel safe to open up to somebody. All of these were pieces of our crew and stories that you have so much experience in and in therapy, Jonathan, that I wish you could come to some of our story sessions just because.
Okay.
Yes. Just Alan, Jonathan, just come to a story session, record it, and I feel like you can really witness like how you're talking about jokes and characters and entertainment, but there's that weird sort of moments when the room feels safe enough to talk about real personal things that get into the film,
Hushva, you okay?
Yes. Just too much to fix.
I'll take care of it. You need to rest, and that's an order.
Yes, ma'am. Ember, I see a change in you. Happier, calmer with customers, and with that food inspector. Always putting shop first. You prove I can trust you. I'm so lucky I have you.
Oh, man.
It's such a relatable parent moment of you think you're having this warm, beautiful connection moment with your kid, and what you're really doing is putting pressure on them.
I've just said the kindest thing to you in my mind that I've ever said, and it's the most hurtful possible thing I can say.
Yeah.
Right.
It's this is so much of my relationship with my mom.
Yeah.
Where I told you earlier that, I went to see Jurassic Park and came home and told my mom I wanted to be like Steven Spielberg and make movies.
Yeah.
And we joked that she was supportive. She was not. She told me in the most loving possible way, to her, this was the best thing she could say. You won't do it, there's only one Steven Spielberg and there's a million people trying to be like him.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
And to her credit, she was correct.
And she was trying to spare you pain.
And she was trying to spare me pain. And she was doing all of these things out of, motherly love and affection, and it, like, crushed me.
Right.
In ways that she couldn't understand.
Because you wanted, I believe in you, and you can do anything. And
yeah. The way you guys captured that in this is... Yeah, it really emotionally affected me. It's still emotionally affecting me right now. But it really, really got me in the theater. Like, I kind of broke down. And, Jono, obviously, is, my co-host and longtime friend. He's seen me do this 1,000 times. Yeah. But I really kind of started losing it. And he looked over and was, like, concerned. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, it's just mom stuff.
And I'm like,
Thanks for sharing that, Alan. I had a tough relationship with my mom as well. And so that idea that love can also hurt is, I feel like what I'm feeling from you. But it's not malicious.
Right.
No, absolutely not.
Right. And it's still love. And having lost my parents, I feel you very much, because it's like the memory now that's left isn't sort of the dark stuff, it's all that's left now is what that love really meant. And it's like a building block now, strangely, and that's part of who you are, Alan, is what she was giving, as hard as it was. Or at least that's how I see the love that my parents were giving, as hard it was for them, they never said I love you. They are not loving people, my parents. To learn their language of what love meant from them was something that took a lifetime for me to really understand, and trying to understand what their language was, or the parents' language was, or first generation's language was something that we had to teach the audience, that like, oh, this is where they come from. This is the way they showcase their love, I think that's where the bow at the end of the film really comes from, was that like, oh, we needed to find another language to showcase what love is versus just saying it,
Part of the love that we see in this film is adaptation, right? And by adaptation, I mean adapting to new circumstances and to new feelings and needs and the evolution of the family members, because they came from a different culture, and this is an immigrant's tale. Yeah. And now when he gets so fired up, and I keep using puns that I don't mean to use, when he gets so fired up about you were not going to water us down, it's because they've been put in this little corner of the town by the water people, right?
Right.
And basically been told, well, we're going to water down your culture. We're going to make you more like us. Yeah. Or in all senses of the word, you're not truly at home here.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they've carved out this little space for themselves, and he's so proud of his daughter. He's so proud of what she represents for the store, for the shop, for their dream, the things that he built. And he does want her to carry on the legacy and to run the store and to know that it will be in good hands. Meanwhile, she's fallen in love with the water boy.
And that's what I call high-quality H2O.
And her interests lie outside of the shop, and she is deeply, deeply worried that, sure, I've won your trust now. What's going to happen when I tell you who I love and what I want out of life?
Even when I was a kid, I would pray to the blue flame to be good enough to fill my father's shoes someday. Because this place is his dream. But I never once asked what I wanted to do. I think that's because deep down, I knew it didn't matter. Because the only way to repay a sacrifice so big is by sacrificing your life too.
Yeah, that is a real universal thing, the idea of the burden of the parent's sacrifice, of just no way to repay it. And it's something that time and time again, as we were talking to professors and our coworkers, that was something that a lot of people felt.
It is such a universal thing. I mean, the specific circumstances of this story deeply resonates with the immigrant community, right? But like, who among us hasn't had their parent at some point say, hey, you don't know what I sacrificed for you?
Yeah.
And it is, as a parent now, it's super true. Like, my film career is not where it would be if I didn't have kids.
Right.
Like, it just isn't.
You'd have been able to go after things differently, harder, say yes to things you had to say no to.
Exactly. And because I had to take care of kids and be available for them, and we work in a difficult industry, I made sacrifices. I am trying so hard to not hold it over their heads ever. I don't want them to know.
Right.
Because I don't want them to feel this.
Yes.
Which I'm kind of two minds, because like feeling a responsibility to your parents is not always a negative thing, I don't think.
That's the balance between duty and self-actualization. Right?
Yeah.
I am who I am and I am where I am because of the opportunities that were provided for me.
Exactly.
And so on the one hand, I want to be grateful and show that gratitude. But at the same time, those opportunities were provided for me to what end? To do whatever I'm told to do, or to pursue the life that I want because they made it possible?
Yeah.
Do I honor them by pursuing the life they want for me, or do I honor them by pursuing the life I want for me?
Part of the understanding of the journey of this film and understanding these characters and the identity of this was that moment in all of our lives when we begin to see our parents as people. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Where they no longer become just the mother or father figure. They become people with flaws and strengths and all of that. And to grow through that and then look past it all and be grateful was something that I feel very lucky that I had the chance to do before they passed away. No matter whatever the circumstances were, it's not for me, it's just to let them know that I see them, essentially. And that being seen as a person is one thing, but being seen as a parent is something that I didn't even realize that was a thing until going through this journey.
Dad, this is all my fault. The shop. Wade. I needed to tell you the truth. I don't want to run the shop. I know that was your dream, but it's not mine. I'm sorry. I'm a bad daughter.
Damn you, Pixar.
Ember, the shop was never the dream. You were the dream. You were always...
I've seen this I don't know how many times, probably 4 or 5 times. It's still getting me.
Yeah, it makes me miss my parents so much.
I loved him, Dad.
Can you tell us a little bit about the line, the shop was not the dream, you were the dream? The significance it has for you and what you were hoping audiences would take from that.
There are 2 pieces of it. First, it was a literal thing that my father had a grocery store, and he was a hot dog cart guy in Manhattan. He made no money, and he built this sort of American dream life where he saved his pennies until he was able to afford a little shop of his own. And then that's where I was born, and in the Bronx. And then he kept saving his money and grew the shop into subsequent other, sizable shops. And that was essentially his plan for my brother and I, was that like, when I pass, I will pass the torch of these businesses.
Yeah, and you're going to take over.
Right. Yeah. And for me, I was maybe not the most grateful of that at the time. I fought him a lot on it. That realization of the pressure of like, he had put everything in his life toward this future for his children, his 2 sons. And the accepting of that, it could feel like you could be either grateful or it could feel like a burden. And I was very rebellious at the time and I pushed it away. And my brother has since taken over. But the older I get, the more I get very emotional over what he was trying to do. That idea of I have a planned future for you, for a lot of people seems like a negative thing. But it is one of the most beautiful things that I think of now, is that a parent has built everything and focused all of their lives in a selfless act for their kids. That equals I love you. That is the action of love.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say it. That gesture was, I love you so much. I want you to take care of you, and this is what I had for you. I did not see that when I was in high school. I couldn't see it until much later in my life. When Ember's hearing it, of course, there's a practical part of that, but at the same time, it is that gesture of the way that he or an immigrant can say, I love you, with an action, you know.
I think of Roger Ebert talks about movies are empathy generating machines.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching Elemental, and it's about fire and water, but it's really about immigrants finding a place, especially in America. I mean, it's very much an American story.
Yeah.
What do you hope people, especially those who haven't experienced that story, take away from this story? How do you hope it helps them?
I mean, so many things. I think the loudest thing has always been empathy, and what are the doors in your language that triggers that empathy, you know, and finding those ways to open your eyes to what other people are going through, and that compassion that really can unite everyone, you know.
Yeah.
It happens in so many ways in the film, and what it takes for this young woman, this firewoman, to finally open up and showcase her vulnerability is the sort of trigger that opens up all the other characters in the film.
Yeah, it's true. And what do you hope viewers who have experienced this story, maybe who are immigrants from their homelands to the United States or to another country where they are no longer the majority, what do you hope they take from this film?
Boy, that is a great question. Jonathan, I haven't been asked that one. That is really, I guess it's about being seen, meaning there are millions of people that have gone through a very similar experience, but at the same time, I'm trying to connect to this idea of knowing who our parents were as people, you know. Growing up here, I fought my mother all the time of like, why don't you learn English, you know? And I was born here, and so like we always had these communication issues growing up.
I think he's lying through his feet. Teeth. Whatever.
I regret how hard I was about it. But then the older I got, the more I understood how much of her identity she was willing to give up, or what she was willing to lose. And for every sort of person, there is a line. And I was really pushing on that line, essentially, like, you know, lose more of yourself, you know, to have a more comfortable life. But I so respect now how much of her identity she was just trying to hold on to. It was just another way that she became, you know, from mom to Heja Son, the person. And some of that would be great to resonate with audiences, you know.
Peter, I gotta say, this film connected with me on a whole bunch of different levels. It was one of my favorite films of last year, and it definitely belongs in the Pixar pantheon of, you know, extraordinary films that you guys all work on over there.
Thank you. That means a lot, Alan. I really appreciate what you guys do, both you and Jonathan, in terms of breaking down sort of the juice of a film and its emotions, and really boiling it in a way that we can all connect to it. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Listen, you know, if you're hiring, I can do this show from any basement. It doesn't matter.
So until next time.
You're so hot.
Excuse me?
No, I mean, you're smoking.
Oh my God. And watch movies. Thank you to all of our patrons over on our Patreon who get extended director's cuts, exclusive episodes, behind-the-scenes content, filmmaking, and short film stuff that's coming at you. Folks like
Jen Laverdure.
Well, now you're just showing off.
That was horrible.
No,
it was French-ish.
That was
French adjacent.
That was a Frenchman if he tripped and fell down a flight of stairs while still talking.
Correct.
Elijah.
Matilda Carlson. I'm not even going to attempt like a Swedish. I'm sorry.
Julie Hawkins.
And Telgin.
Yep. thank you for supporting us, and
thank you for getting this director's cut, which is going to be way long.
Yeah.
We talked to Peter for a long time.
Yeah, enjoy.
Why do they even have these?
Who knows?